6 years is a long time. Long enough to graduate from college, start a career, even buy a house. For me, it was 6 years of being in love with the same man, Jason. We met at a friend's birthday party when I was 22. He had that easy smile, the kind that makes you believe you're safe the moment you see it. And from that night on, we were inseparable. The first year was magical. We went on road trips, cooked late-night dinners, laughed until sunrise. He made me feel like the only woman in the world. By year 3, we had moved in together, splitting rent and decorating our tiny apartment with second-hand furniture we swore gave it character. My friends teased me, saying we looked like an old married couple already. That was the thing. We did everything like a married couple, except the marriage part. At first, I didn't mind. We were young, just figuring out life. I told myself there was no rush, that love was more important than rings or paperwork. But as years slipped by, I started noticing little cracks in the picture-perfect story I had built in my head. My friends were getting engaged. Some were even having babies. I clapped and cheered at their bridal showers, smiled in photos, but inside, I felt this growing ache. Why not me? Why not us? Every time I thought Jason might finally pop the question, during vacations, birthdays, Christmas, nothing happened. Just another dinner, another present, another night where I went to bed with hope and woke up with disappointment. One evening, sitting on the couch while he scrolled through his phone, I blurted out, "Jason, do you ever think about marriage?" He looked up, surprised, as if I had asked about moving to Mars. Then he chuckled softly, kissed my forehead, and said, "Of course, babe. Someday." Someday. That word was starting to feel like a prison. And deep down, I began to wonder if someday would ever come. I tried to convince myself I was overthinking it. After all, Jason loved me. I had no doubt about that. He showed it in small ways, bringing me coffee in bed on weekends, fixing my car when it broke down, holding my hand in crowded places like I might get lost without him. But love alone wasn't enough anymore. At family gatherings, the questions started to sting. My aunt would pat my hand and ask, "So when's the big day?" My mom would give me those sympathetic smiles like she knew I was waiting, just too polite to push him. Even my younger cousin got engaged before me. At her engagement party, Jason and I were the only long-term couple still, just dating. I remember standing in front of the bathroom mirror that night, mascara smudged from crying quietly, asking my reflection, "Am I not enough for him?" The truth was, I was scared of the answer. One weekend, we went to a friend's wedding. The ceremony was beautiful, soft lights, live music, everyone teary-eyed as the bride walked down the aisle. I glanced at Jason during the vows, hoping to catch a spark of inspiration in his eyes. Instead, he looked distracted, like he was already thinking about the open bar. Later that night, as couples slow danced, I gathered the courage to press him again. "Jason, do you see us ever doing this?" I gestured toward the dance floor, bridesmaids twirling around us, the bride glowing with happiness. He sighed, put his hands on my shoulders, and said, "Babe, I just don't get why everyone's in such a rush to tie themselves down. We're good the way we are." My stomach dropped. Tie themselves down? Was that how he saw it, marriage as a chain instead of a promise? That night, lying beside him, listening to his steady breathing, I realized I was starting to feel like a guest in my own relationship. And the more I thought about it, the heavier that silence between us became. By the 6th year, the silence had turned into a shadow that followed me everywhere. I could be laughing with Jason over a movie or walking with him hand in hand through the park, but at the back of my mind the same thought whispered, "If he hasn't proposed by now, will he ever?" Friends tried to comfort me in different ways. Some said, "Maybe he's saving for the perfect ring." Others muttered, "Girl, if he wanted to, he would have done it already." Their words lingered, but none gave me peace. One evening, I met my best friend Emma for drinks. She leaned in after her second glass of wine and asked the question I had been avoiding. "Do you think he's just stringing you along?" Her words hit me like ice water. I shook my head, defending him. "No, Jason's not like that. He's loyal. He's everything." But even as I said it, my voice cracked. Emma didn't argue. She just reached across the table, squeezing my hand the way best friends do when they see through you. That weekend, Jason and I went furniture shopping. We stood in front of a display of dining tables, and I caught myself imagining holiday dinners, kids doing homework, Sunday breakfasts. My heart swelled with longing. Can you picture us having a family here someday? I asked, trying to sound casual. Jason smiled, but it was the kind of smile you give to deflect, not to answer. He pulled me into a hug and said, "You worry too much." I didn't argue. I just let myself sink into his arms, but inside, I felt something cracking. I wanted commitment. He wanted comfort. We were living the same life, but dreaming completely different futures. That night, as he fell asleep beside me, I lay awake staring at the ceiling. For the first time in 6 years, I let myself wonder, what if the man I love is never going to give me the life I dream of? And the terrifying part was, I wasn't sure if I was ready to walk away, or if I was too afraid to. The breaking point didn't come with a fight. It came in the most ordinary moment. We were having dinner on a Friday night, takeout containers spread across the coffee table, Netflix humming in the background. I was halfway through my pad thai when Jason casually mentioned that his co-worker had just gotten engaged. "Crazy, right?" he said, shoving another forkful of food into his mouth. Something inside me snapped. I set down my fork, looked straight at him, and asked, "And what about us? When is it going to be our turn?" He froze, chewing slowly, as if hoping the question would just dissolve in the air. When he finally swallowed, he gave me the same answer I'd heard a dozen times before. "Babe, we don't need a piece of paper to prove what we have." But this time, I didn't let it slide. My voice trembled, but I held his gaze. 6 years, Jason. 6 years of loving you, building a life with you. I've been patient, but I need to know, do you actually see me as your wife one day or not at all? His face tightened. He sighed, ran a hand through his hair, and muttered, "Why do you have to pressure me? Everything's fine the way it is." I felt the sting of tears, but I didn't cry. Instead, I stood up, walked into the bedroom, and closed the door behind me. My heart was pounding, so loud it drowned out the TV. That night, I didn't sleep. I just lay there staring at the ceiling, my chest aching with a mix of anger and heartbreak. For years, I had convinced myself that someday was enough. But I realized in that moment, someday might never come. And the question I had been avoiding all this time suddenly became impossible to ignore. Was I willing to spend the rest of my life waiting for a promise he never intended to make? The next morning, I woke up before Jason and sat on the balcony with a cup of coffee. The air was crisp, the city just beginning to stir, but my mind was already racing. I thought about everything we'd shared, the late-night drives, the vacations we could barely afford but took anyway, the way he always kissed me on the forehead when I was upset. I loved him. God, I loved him so much. But love wasn't supposed to feel like waiting in line for a door that never opened. When Jason finally woke up, he walked out with messy hair and a sleepy grin, kissed my cheek, and poured himself coffee like nothing was wrong. And maybe for him nothing was. Maybe he really did believe that what we had was enough. But for me, the silence had become unbearable. That day, I confided in Emma again. We sat in her kitchen, mugs of tea between us, and I let the words spill out. "I don't know if I can do this anymore. I feel like I'm stuck in limbo." Emma didn't hesitate. "Then you need to decide what matters more, being with him as he is, or being with someone who gives you what you want. But don't lie to yourself by pretending you're okay with less than you deserve." Her words hit hard because I knew she was right. That evening, Jason suggested we go out for ice cream. He was playful, holding my hand, making stupid jokes. And part of me wanted to just melt back into that comfort, to forget everything, and keep pretending we were fine. But when I looked at him, really looked at him, I saw a man who was content. Content with me, content with us, but not willing to take that next step. And in that moment, the ache in my chest told me the truth. Maybe it wasn't that he didn't love me. Maybe it was that he loved me only enough to keep me here, but not enough to truly choose me. I don't know if you've ever had that moment, the one where you realize your relationship is standing perfectly still while the rest of the world keeps moving forward. That was me. 6 years in, still calling him my boyfriend, still waiting for a ring that never came, still smiling politely when people asked, "So when's your wedding?" One night, after another long day at work, I came home to find Jason on the couch, controller in hand, fully immersed in his video game. The living room light cast a glow on him, and I just stood there for a second, watching. It hit me. He looked exactly the same as he had 6 years ago. Same hobbies, same patterns, same someday promises. Meanwhile, I had grown, new job, new goals, new dreams of a family, and a home that actually belonged to us. I was evolving. He was comfortable. "Jason," I said, my voice more serious than I intended. He paused the game, glanced up. "Yeah. We need to talk." His eyes narrowed a little. The classic sign. He already knew where this was going. I sat down across from him and clasped my hands together. My throat felt tight, but I forced the words out. "I can't keep waiting forever. I need to know if marriage is something you actually want, or if I've been wasting my time." The silence stretched. He leaned back, arms crossed, defensive. "Why are you making this an ultimatum? Isn't what we have enough? We live together, we love each other, we share everything. Why ruin it by putting pressure on it?" Ruin it. That phrase burned. To me, marriage wasn't about ruining anything. It was about building a future, making a choice to stand side by side no matter what. But to him, it sounded like a trap. I swallowed hard. "Jason, I don't see it as pressure. I see it as commitment. I've given you 6 years of my life. I just want to know if you ever see yourself making me your wife." He rubbed his forehead, frustrated. "I don't know, okay? Maybe I will, maybe I won't. I just don't want to feel forced into it." The words cut deeper than he realized. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. How do you hear that from the person you love most and not feel your heart crack wide open? That night, I barely slept. I stared at the ceiling, thinking about every memory we'd built, every moment I thought meant forever. I thought about the girl I used to be, patient, hopeful, willing to wait. But that girl was gone. Now I was a woman who knew what she wanted, a partner who wasn't afraid to choose me out loud. The next day, I did something terrifying. I made a list. On one side, all the reasons I loved Jason. On the other, all the things I wanted that he couldn't or wouldn't give me. The first list was long, his kindness, his laugh, the way he always saved me the last slice of pizza. But the second list was short and heavy, outweighing everything else. Marriage, stability, the future I dreamed of. I sat there staring at the paper, tears blurring the ink. And for the first time, I whispered to myself, maybe love isn't enough. When Jason came home that evening, he kissed me like nothing had changed. But in my heart, everything had. Because I finally saw the truth, he wasn't refusing to propose because he was waiting for the right time. He was refusing because he didn't want the same life I did. And I had to decide if I was brave enough to stop waiting for someday and start choosing myself instead. The following week felt like I was living in 2 different worlds. On the outside, nothing had changed. Jason and I still cooked dinner together, still curled up on the couch watching movies, still laughed over stupid jokes only we understood. But inside me, something had shifted. Every time I looked at him, I felt this heavy question pressing against my chest. Is this enough for the rest of my life? At work, I caught myself zoning out during meetings, staring at the ring finger on my left hand. Bare. Always bare. My co-workers showed off engagement rings, baby photos, stories about their husbands. I smiled politely, but my heart ached. It wasn't jealousy, it was grief for the life I thought I'd have by now. One evening, Emma invited me over. She had that blunt way of speaking that always cut through my excuses. 6 years, no proposal, and now he's saying maybe I will, maybe I won't, she said, shaking her head. Girl, he's keeping you comfortable while he figures out if you're his forever. And that's not fair to you. Her words stayed with me. That night, I sat on the edge of our bed while Jason brushed his teeth in the bathroom. I studied our room, the shared dresser, the photos on the nightstand, the life we had built. It looked so much like a home. But the more I stared, the more I realized it was missing the foundation I truly wanted. When he came to bed, I asked softly, Jason, do you ever think about what life will look like in 10 years? He shrugged, pulling the blanket up. I don't know. Same as now, I guess. Hopefully with a bigger TV. He laughed at his own joke, but I didn't. I turned to face him. I don't want things to stay the same forever. I want a wedding. I want kids. I want to build a family. For a moment, he was quiet. Then he sighed and said, why can't you just be happy with what we have? Why does it have to be about titles and rings? That answer broke something in me, because it wasn't about titles or rings. It was about him seeing me as his forever, not just his for now. I rolled over, facing the wall, silent tears wetting my pillow. Jason fell asleep quickly, as always, while my heart throbbed with a truth I could no longer ignore. The man I loved with everything in me might never give me the one thing I needed most. And if that was the case, then the next move had to be mine. I didn't leave right away. People think breaking up is like ripping off a bandage. Quick, painful, done. But when you've shared 6 years of your life with someone, it feels more like peeling away your own skin. Every memory, every routine, every inside joke is woven into you. The thought of cutting it all out at once terrified me. So I waited. Or maybe, if I'm honest, I hoped. Hoped Jason would notice my sadness. Hoped he would realize what I needed. Hoped that one day he'd come home with a ring and finally say, "You're the one I choose." But hope can turn into poison when it's the only thing keeping you alive. Weeks passed. His co-workers got engaged. Our friends had baby showers. We attended weddings where people toasted to love and forever. And each time I felt the same ache, watching Jason smile politely, clap, then go back to pretending none of it mattered. The final straw came one Saturday afternoon. We were at the park, lying on a blanket, the sun warming our faces. A little girl toddled past chasing a kite, her parents laughing as they ran behind her. My heart swelled, and without thinking, I whispered, "I can't wait to have moments like that with our kids." Jason's body tensed. He didn't even look at me when he said, "I don't know if I even want kids." It was like someone had punched the air out of my lungs. 6 years. 6 years, and we never talk about this seriously? I sat up, my voice shaky. "Jason, what do you mean? You've never said that before." He finally turned to me, annoyed. "Because you never stop pushing. First it's marriage, now it's kids. Can't you just enjoy what we have without always wanting more?" I stared at him, my chest burning. Wanting a future isn't pushing, Jason. It's normal. It's love. It's planning a life together. But he didn't see it that way. He lay back down, closing his eyes as if the conversation itself exhausted him. I sat there for a long time, staring at the man I loved, realizing that our dreams didn't match. His dream was a comfortable present. Mine was a committed future. And no matter how much I loved him, love alone couldn't bridge that gap. That night, while Jason slept, I quietly pulled out my suitcase. I didn't pack much, just enough to leave for a while. My hands trembled as I folded clothes, slid my toothbrush into a bag, tucked away the framed photo of me and Emma he never paid attention to. I wasn't ready to say it out loud yet, but in my heart I knew. I couldn't keep waiting for a man who was never going to choose me the way I chose him. The night I left, the city was quiet. I stood in our living room with my suitcase by the door, staring at the space that had been our home for so many years. The couch where we'd spent countless Sunday mornings tangled in each other. The kitchen where we'd burned more dinners than I could count, but always laughed it off. The photos on the wall, vacations, birthdays, little snapshots of a love that once felt endless. Jason was asleep in the bedroom. I'd kissed his forehead softly before slipping out, whispering, "I love you," even though I wasn't sure what those words meant anymore. Because love wasn't the problem. Love was the chain that had kept me there, long after I realized he wasn't moving forward with me. I booked a small Airbnb across town. That first night, I lay awake on a stranger's bed, staring at the ceiling fan spinning slowly, wondering if I had just destroyed the best thing in my life, or finally saved myself from slowly drowning. The next morning, Jason called. His voice was groggy, confused. "Where are you? Your stuff's gone." I swallowed hard. I needed space. I needed to think. Think about what? His voice cracked with panic. "What the hell are you doing?" My throat tightened. "About whether this is really the life I want. About whether you'll ever give me the future I've been waiting for." There was silence on the other end, heavy and suffocating. Then finally he whispered, "So this is it? You're leaving me because I won't propose." Tears streamed down my face, though I tried to keep my voice steady. "No, Jason. I'm leaving because you never wanted to." For days, I ignored his calls. Emma checked on me constantly, reminding me that grief is part of healing, even when the relationship wasn't what I needed. Still, I kept replaying everything, the laughter, the adventures, the moments that made me believe forever was possible. I questioned myself 100 times. Was I too impatient? Did I ask for too much? Then one evening, Jason showed up at the Airbnb. He looked wrecked, dark circles under his eyes, his shirt wrinkled like he hadn't slept. "I bought a ring," he blurted out the second I opened the door. His hands were shaking as he pulled a small box from his pocket. Inside was a simple diamond ring, elegant and understated, exactly the style I'd once dreamed of. For a moment, my heart screamed at me to say yes, to fall into his arms, to finally get everything I'd been waiting for. But then reality sank in. This wasn't a proposal born from love or excitement. It was desperation, fear of losing me. I looked at him, tears welling in my eyes. "Why now, Jason? Why after 6 years of saying no? Why only when I walked away?" He had no answer. He just stood there, eyes pleading, as if the ring itself could erase the years of uncertainty. I shook my head slowly. "I wanted you to choose me because you were ready, not because you were scared of being alone." Jason's shoulders slumped. He slipped the ring back into his pocket, and in that moment, I knew the chapter was closed. Walking away from him felt like tearing out a piece of my own soul. But for the first time in years, I also felt something I hadn't in a long time: freedom. Freedom to hope again. Freedom to believe that one day, someone would choose me not out of fear, but out of certainty. It's been months since I walked away from Jason. At first, the silence was unbearable. I'd reach for my phone in the morning, expecting a "good morning, babe," only to remember it wouldn't come. The bed felt too big, the apartment too quiet, and even the smallest routines, like buying coffee or folding laundry, hurt because they reminded me of him. But slowly, the weight began to lift. I started running in the mornings, something Jason always complained was too early. I signed up for a cooking class Emma had begged me to try for years. I even took a solo trip to the beach, where I sat with my feet in the sand and let the waves remind me that life moves forward, with or without permission. The hardest part was unlearning the idea that love meant waiting forever. For so long, I thought patience was proof of loyalty. But patience without reciprocity is just self-betrayal. Jason didn't fail me because he didn't love me. He failed me because he couldn't love me in the way I needed. One night, Emma and I sat on her balcony, sipping wine. She looked at me and said, "You're glowing. You look lighter." And for the first time, I believed her. Sometimes I still think about Jason. I wonder if he regrets not choosing me sooner. I wonder if he wears the ring he never gave me in his pocket like a reminder of what he lost. But those thoughts don't break me anymore. They remind me of the girl I used to be, the girl who thought someday was enough. Now I know better. I deserve more than promises wrapped in excuses. I deserve a partner who doesn't hesitate to stand beside me, who isn't afraid to say, "Yes, you're my forever." Leaving Jason wasn't the end of my love story. It was the beginning of finally choosing myself. And if there's one thing I've learned from those 6 years, it's this: sometimes the bravest thing you can do for love is to walk away from the one who won't choose you, so you can make space for the one who will.